So, is Labour's decision to cut the winter fuel allowance for pensioners worse than when the Conservative government was involved in the Partygate scandal during COVID? Your calls, please. Asking this because a survey of over 2,000 Brits has found that more than 50% of us say winter fuel allowance cuts have been more damaging for Labour than Partygate was for the Tories. The benefit cut is estimated to have impacted 10 million pensioners. The Partygate rule-breaking happened at the peak of the COVID lockdown when public health restrictions prohibited most gatherings, even as we know. And, Mike, it was a disaster. But you go first here. I'll let Carolyn hear the counter-argument. Which is worst?
I think the cancellation of the winter fuel payment is the most pernicious and damaging policy any Labour government's come up with since the war. Because
which war? The Second World War?
Yeah, the Second World War, yeah. Because even before this, in the last Tory government, right, they did a similar plan. They had a similar plan drawn up. They were going to cancel the fuel payment. And Labour investigated this and came up with a document which said 4,200 pensioners a year will die if you withdraw the winter fuel payment. So the Tories then dropped it. Why then would they come into government and introduce a policy which they know through their own research is going to kill old people? They hate old people.
They hate old people.
They hate old people.
No, I mean, the truth of all this is when we went into office, we inherited a massive debt, far more than we'd anticipated. And the money just wasn't there to pay the winter fuel to everyone.
Make pensioners pay with their lives, though.
Everyone who was at that time entitled to it. I mean, and everybody was entitled to it.
Can you make the case that Partygate is worse?
Yeah, I think. Personally, I think so. But I'm going to say that. Yeah. Well, I think because that was, I mean, the Queen at her husband's funeral. I mean, that to me was what the Partygate.
That's a sideshow.
Well, no, hang on.
But I mean, this is in politics. Everybody polarise an argument, and the argument is, but this is worse than that. They're two different things. You can't compare apples and pears. You can't. The situation with the winter fuel allowance is, we did not want to do that. If the Tories were still in power, God forbid, they would have had to do the same thing. The money they would have had to. The money is
Mike,
not
they do.
there.
Labour has said that if you're a pensioner, you will effectively get the money back next year through the triple lock.
Yeah.
So,
and then if you're on pension credit, which is not there's a huge lack of
you have the 300 on top
credit.
of the triple lock, which is what the pensioners need. Last Friday night, in my place, it was -4 degrees. Woe betide any pensioner that's in a house of -4 degrees.
Well,
also, I think Partygate was largely an invention. It was a brilliant journalistic campaign by the Mirror and ITV and The Guardian. And look, although I totally disagree with the way they got rid of Boris Johnson, it was a brilliant journalistic campaign. But the winter fuel payment is going to cost old people's lives. That's very much more real than a journalistic campaign.
Old people who cannot afford heating will be on pension credit. If they're on pension credit, they will get it. The people who will lose their pension credit are people who have got income outside of their state pension.
10 million.
The problem is
10 million,
we need to up the threshold on pension credit. We need to make more people eligible, and we need to get the people who are eligible and who are not claiming it, we need them to actually start claiming. Well, I've got a surgery on Friday. Well, I'm inviting pensioners to come and actually learn, get somebody to actually fill the forms in for you for pension credit, because that's what we need to do. Encourage more pensioners onto pension credit.
That's not going to help in the current cold spell.
Well, it will if they get onto pension credit, because they'll get the winter fuel allowance.
Last Friday night when it was -4 degrees.
Well,
Linda in Doncaster, hi.
Hi.
What do you think? Which was worse for the standing government, Partygate or the winter fuel cut?
Winter fuel, definitely. And can I just say to Caroline, you keep going on about the pension credit. Anybody who gets a new state pension doesn't qualify by about £4. So that's been in since about 2015.
Raise the threshold, like I just said.
Yeah, but that hasn't
happened. You're in power, you raise the threshold.
That is something that we are looking at. We are looking at raising the threshold.
Don't keep saying pension credit, because anybody under 73 can't claim it anyway.
Is that right? So if you're a newer pensioner, you won't qualify for it?
Yes.
Okay.
You're over by about £4, which is my case. And also, you're going after people who've contributed their whole lives, and yet you find millions every day to put people up in accommodation. Caroline, the last time you were on, you were looking round the Bibby Stockholm, I suppose, to see if they were warm and fed and clothed. Why can't you do it for the old people? You seem to have forgotten them.
Go on, you can answer.
Well, no, we didn't want to do it. We didn't have any option to do it. If the money's not there, we can't spend what we haven't got. You know, and that's the bottom line.
Huge
and
pay rises. Then.
But Mike,
huge pay rises.
Mike, to defend Carolyn for a second, we have got a £2 trillion standing debt in this country.
Yeah.
Our children are going to be overtaxed for the whole of their lives.
Yes.
And they're going to look back at this conversation and say, who was that old guy with the beard who said we should shower all this money around when it didn't exist?
Shower which money around? What money around?
Money that's borrowed. It's
£300
borrowed.
a year.
It's borrowed.
£300 a year, and they've just stuck a load more people into the House of Lords who get £300 allowance a day.
Well, then cancel that as well.
That's about scrutiny.
Well, OK, cancel all of it.
That's about scrutiny, scrutinising us as a government and making sure that we are making decisions which are best for the country. And you talk about pay raises, Mike. How much do you think it costs when public sector workers or train drivers or people working the trap go on strike? The country grinds to a halt. How much money does that cost? We have to make sure people get a fair day's pay for a fair day's work.
Yes, but a £70,000 train driver compared to a pensioner who's deprived £300 a year, that's not a good look.
OK, I understand. The train drivers is a dangerous one to bring up because that did add to the debt. Denise in Berkshire, which was worse, Partygate or the winter fuel cut?
Well, I don't want to compare them because I just think this is a very divisive government. I think it's dividing the whole communities. I think they're dividing pensioners. I mean, what somebody's just said recently about the train drivers getting I mean, I've worked in the public sector all my life. I know a lot of money is wasted in the public sector, but the problem is that they're dividing workers. If you're on a lower income, you're a worker, and if you're on a higher income, you're not a worker. This is how they define people, and yet any company that is funding the government because it's a company that's got a union. They're being paid. They're getting the money, and yet the lower working class, the people in lower incomes, aren't really getting it, and they're really taking it out on people who are working very, very hard and are getting slightly more income, and I think they're very divisive. I think it's deliberate.
They said, but Denise, briefly, they have to make cuts. They say, do you accept that?
Well, I think they're making the cuts in the wrong places.
All right. Thank you, Denise, so much. Thank you.